Hi gang, so in this video I am going to be doing 4 looks, 1 palette, and a kind of initial impressions of the Urban Decay stoned vibes, I always want to say stone vibes, it's stoned vibes palette. As you can see, the packaging is a little bit ornate and I guess more interesting than their last few releases. So just to preface this, I have used this palette once before and I walked around town with it just so that I could get a feel of its longevity. So in the interest of time and editing ease, I suppose, I'm going to be doing the 4 looks like this. One eye, one look, the second eye, another look, and then take it off. Again, this eye, one look, and this one, another look. I've done my brows and put down the Urban Decay Original Primer Potion already on both eyes. So that is what we are starting with. So I'm going to show you what happens when you dip the brush into the pan. And I'm holding this up because the light and the mirror don't go together. Okay. So this is a flat shader brush from Zoeva, and yeah, I'm gonna go into this shade called Jade. So I'm trying to pick it up with my brush, and this is what comes up. Not too bad, not too shabby. And I'm gonna spray it with my MAC Fix Plus because from my experience using this palette once and this shade once, it seemed to fall out quite a bit under the eyes. I'm kind of tilting my head backwards so that, wrong side, so that the fallout on the underside of my eye is minimal as I'm patting on the shade. As you see, as I tap the brush further into the eyeshadow, I don't know if you can see it, but it seems to be, how you say, compacting the eyeshadow. So I'm kind of pressing it down and it's kind of being remolded in the pan. I don't know how much of that is showing up, but you can see there's a little bit of a dip. So there's a bit of a dip because the eyeshadow has been compressed. Now, I have seen a similar formula actually in this Essence Multichrome eyeshadow. I haven't tried the Essence Multichrome yet, but if you're interested in me comparing the formulas, I guess I could pick one of those up. So I've got that down. Next, I'm going to take the shade Tiger's Eye. This one picks up like that. Let's focus. This. I don't like to not spray this formula because of how it falls out on the base of the eye if I go in with a kind of dry brush. You could also pack it on with a finger, but I don't really like to do that. Yeah. I'm not a fan of placing product on with a finger because I don't want to get stuff on my hands necessarily too much. And just to anchor it a little bit, I'm going to use the shade Hexed, which is this kind of matte mid-tone brown. So I'm trying to deepen up that on my outer corner, kind of patting that on and then maybe bringing it in just a little bit. I'm gonna go in with the shade Opal Aura. Okay, so I'm going in with the Good Karma and Antidote shades and kind of blending out the edges of that brown. So for the second look, I'm gonna go in with the shade Mediate on the outer corner of the eye and Vibes in the inner corner of the eye, and kind of deepening it up with that third eye shade on the side. So let's see if that works. So, whoops. I'm gonna put Mediate in the inner corner as well. And then a pop of Vibes in the middle. So that's Vibes on the brush. I feel like Vibes is a bit chunkier and more flaky than the other shades. Just a little bit. So I'm gonna pick up third eye, right? And I'm going to kind of deepen the outer and inner corners with it just a tad. So I feel like going over the shimmer shades with the two darker shades in the palette, Third Eye and Hexed, could be a way to kind of diversify the deepening shades that you can get. And then again with the two lighter shades mixed together, Good Karma and Antidote, kind of blending the outer edges of everything. So using the same kind of method, I'm going to take Third Eye, then I'm gonna place the shade Vibes in the middle of the bottom lash line. That picks up quite nicely with this very small brush. And I'm applying it to the inner corner of the eye as well. So this is the first look and this is the second look, and I did add some eyeliner to both of the eyes just so that I could get a little bit more definition. Let's move on to the third and fourth look. I'm gonna go in with the shade Ojo, and this is that darker blue. Let me just grab it on the brush. Okay. This is also a little bit flaky, similar to Vibes. Well, they're all kind of flaky, but this is a bit more flaky. The larger kind of chunks coming off. Spray my brush once more. And let's get started with the third eye. So you can definitely see that this one has a bit of a depth to it. More apparent depth. And it's a little bit more difficult to kind of spread it out as compared to the other shades so far. like it's a bit harder to kind of even out because the chunks are a little bit more substantial, I suppose. So trying to really pat them down and even out and smooth out all the little details is a bit tricky. If you can see that right here, this spot seems to be gathering a little bit. I don't know if that did anything. Yeah, I'm gonna use the shade Raw Energy, and this one is a lot lighter than it looks, I think. So there that is on the brush. Spraying it down and patting it on. This one looks a bit more translucent. Okay. So I feel like this is performing similarly to this. It kind of gathers in areas and is more difficult to kind of smooth over and blend out. Let me switch brushes to the detail shader from Zoeva. I find that this brush sometimes does a better job than the smoky shader. Yeah, I picked up quite a nice chunk of that. Yeah, okay, I'm getting a more even distribution with this brush. Something about the hairs on this brush kind of, I don't know, grab onto more product. Okay, and I can feel like the texture of the shadow is feeling a bit sticky. Oh boy. Okay. So for the bottom lash line, I was thinking of using a smaller detail brush to kind of brush it down, but as you can see, I just picked up quite a chunky eyeshadow, which is a little bit chunky. Like I said, that blue shade is substantially chunkier. I don't even know if I can get this on my eye now without everything flaking everywhere. Now that I put it on this way, you can see there is a huge difference between up here and down here. Gonna go in with that Raw Energy shade again. Oy. Again, getting kind of flaky pieces. I'm also applying a lot of Fix Plus here and there. So that is Raw Energy really fully packed on with a very wet brush. I don't know if I can do much to kind of blend this area out. Whoopsie daisy. So I'm going in with the shade Raw, no, not this one, Bloodstone, right? Okay. I'm switching my brushes because I'm kind of trying different bristles to see what gives a good effect. So that's that. Give a bit of a spritz. And ooh, this one applies nicely. At least with this brush. It kind of really does shift in the light when you move your head, when you move your eyelids in the light. It shifts from that green, shimmery green to like a warm orangey terracotta base type of thing. I'm gonna be using the Tiger's Eye. I'm gonna use the shade Tiger's Eye right here. Again, spray that brush, pack it in the inner corner. I'm just going to show you for the sake of this video how it looks like when I apply Tiger's Eye with my finger, because I haven't used that method with any of the other looks, so you get pretty much the same as you get with that brush, I think. Maybe. I will use the shade Hexed again, this one right here, the brown. Kind of put that on the bottom lash line. And for the inner corner, again, mimicking that same effect. Okay, so this is the third and fourth look. As you can see, this area is kind of, the crease is a little bit odd, and that's because I couldn't seem to get the blue shade to kind of blend the way that I wanted it to. Again, I did define my eyes with some liner. I used blue liner on this eye and a little bit of kind of like a deep red on this eye. So let's quickly get into the swatches and then I'll come back with my thoughts. Okay, so here are my thoughts about the palette. Firstly, let's talk about the mattes. I do like the mattes. I do like the two shades, Good Karma and Antidote primarily. These kind of blending shades over here and here. I find that they work quite well to kind of diffuse the outer perimeter of the eyeshadow. At least for my skin tone, it seems to work. If you are of a deeper skin tone, I think maybe Hexed, depending on how deep you are, you might have to adjust that ratio, but that could also help to be kind of like a matte blending shade to kind of diffuse the shimmer around the eyes. The shades Third Eye and Hexed on the edges of the palette, they, when added on top of the shimmer, they can kind of deepen up the look a little bit. So the tone difference between one being a little bit more orangey brown and the other one being a little bit more purple, I suppose you can change the vibe. However, I don't think that they are deep enough for my personal taste. Right, so for the shimmers, these are the stars of the show, obviously. Okay, so I've just darkened down the exposure so that you can see the colors a little bit better. I do like these shades right here. I do think they're very nice and very iridescent, and as you saw, they kind of dance in the light. You can see kind of the very shimmery particles kind of hitting at different spots, and yeah, they're very pretty on the eye. I did have a little bit of a problem trying to blend out this blue. As you can see, even right here in the swatch, it's a little bit uneven and a little bit kind of chunky in certain places. And like I said, when it dries down, it feels sort of tacky. I also did notice quite a bit of fallout with certain shades. Let's see, Vibe had quite a bit of fallout. It was a bit flaky. Like I said, this one, Ojo, quite flaky. And as you can see, in this little well where the brush is supposed to lay, you can see that there are lots of particles now in the little well, so they kind of flake off as you press as you use your brush with them. They've got a little bit of a dip in them now that I've used it with the brush. So like I said, they're kind of a little bit squishy and a little bit malleable. And yeah, I mean, I have seen shadows do this before. I guess it's not that bad. It's just annoying when the eyeshadows kind of flake as you try to get the product out. Let me see if I can compare it to some formulas. So this is the Nabla Dreamy 2 palette, and as you can see, this shade, Lucid Dream and Amaccord, these two shades have a bit of a divot in it, and they have this similar kind of malleableness to them. And when you touch them or use a brush, you have to apply a little bit of pressure to get the product onto the brush. So these are not my favorite formulas of eyeshadows to work with. I know on the box it tells you that using your finger is your best option, but honestly, I don't like using my fingers to apply my eyeshadows. I much prefer a brush. I could get them to work with a brush. I found that the Smith 256 was okay. If I wet the brush and I dipped into the shimmer shades, those worked. The smoky shader brush from Zoeva, it worked, but not as well. And this 237 detail shader brush works quite well with this formula. And yeah, this is the kind of brush bristles we're looking at. So I would say these two brushes kind of worked well with that formula. In terms of how they look on the eye, I think they look absolutely beautiful and stunning. I also had the same kind of feel with the Dreamy 2 palette from Nabla, where I said that the shimmer shades would give you a gorgeous, beautiful, iridescent look, but they're just a little bit more finicky to work with, at least with my technique and my application preference. I wanted to show you some comparisons with a formula that I think is easier to work with, but also gives the same kind of beautiful iridescence. So these are single shadows from Nabla. Right up here is I think they're Celestial formulas. So these are two shades. This is Virgin Island and this one is Selfish. So I've turned the exposure down again so that you can see the color pay off a little bit better. So you can see that they kind of give off the same very small, tiny shimmer particles that really catch the light as you move. Like it's a dancing jewel, if you know what I mean. So these two shades definitely have the kind of effect that the Urban Decay Stoned Vibes palette has. However, they, in my opinion, are much easier to apply. They don't seem to get a big divot when you use your brush with them. Yeah, they're not as malleable. I find them a little bit more oily, if that makes sense, and that kind of helps the shadow blend better on the eyelid. So I prefer this formula compared to the Stone Vibes palette. However, it has to be said that if you were to get this, you would have to buy them individually. These are a little bit pricey. They're 9.90 euros each, and the Stone Vibes palette is, I think it was 54 euros. If you want more shades, the Stone Vibes palette would be the way to go. But if you are interested in like just one shade that really does this gorgeous shift to it, this dancing in the light iridescence to it, then I can recommend Virgin Island and the shade Selfish. They've also got a few other shades like Nereide and Danae, Glasswork, as well as Water Dream. These are a little bit more, this is Glasswork? No. Glasswork and Water Dream. These are a little bit more translucent. Anyway, you get my drift. So if you don't have any eyeshadow formulas like these, then it would be a very beautiful and interesting addition to your collection. This is a palette that I would personally want to pair with other palettes, especially to get a little bit more definition. If you kind of just like an iridescent all over the lid look and you're fine with throwing on some liner to give your eyes that definition, then this could be fine as a standalone palette. And I think that even if you're a beginner, this isn't a bad palette to get if you want to just jazz up your collection with something you know that will be just really iridescent and beautiful. I also wanted to quickly mention that when you do remove these shimmer eyeshadows, there will be some remnants of those very tiny shimmery particles. Those kind of stay on for a bit, and you could get a lot of it off if you double cleanse and wash your face with a face wash. However, it's still not foolproof because I've washed my hands and the very tiny shimmer particles are still there. I don't know if those are visible, but I can definitely see them in person in the light. So just to let you know, if that bothers you, that is something to definitely consider before getting this palette. So those are my general thoughts on this. If you really like using a brush, just know that this formula is going to flake, but overall they do have very beautiful shades and they do look very beautiful on the eye. Also, if you enjoyed my content and you would like to subscribe, now would be a great time to do it. So that's it from me, and ciao for now.